Redditors who go into people's houses for their job. What is the strangest / creepiest thing you've ever seen or experienced? I'm a firefighter / EMT, so it's pretty normal to find a dead body. But one will always stay with me. There was this middle-aged guy who lived in his van out in a parking lot somewhat out of town. He never bothered anybody. So the police just let him stay there. It was around middle of July in Arizona and we got a call to go check on him. Nobody had seen him for a while and somebody had complained of a foul odor coming from his van. We all knew what we were gonna find, but nothing could prepare us for what we actually came across. I opened the back door to his van and a cloud of flies flew out so thick you couldn't see through it. I was immediately punched in the face by the stench of death. And when the flies cleared out we finally got a look at what was in there. The guy had been dead for at least 2 weeks. And his cats had survived by eating the fleshier parts of his body. I've seen my fair share of dead bodies. But there's something about a guy who had been in a van for 2 weeks in Arizona summer heat with cats eating his body that just sticks with you. I work in apartment complexes and constantly go into people's units. Once we were taking over a property, and doing this we had to go into every single apartment and room to check for the conditions of things. One of the apartments I went into had a room that was covered in nothing but pictures of ceiling fans. There was a bed in the middle of the room and a small computer monitor in a corner and hundreds of pictures of fans. Big and small. All over the walls. Fans from magazines. Fans printed out. Fans. I worked with a young patient with autism a few years ago who loved fans. People with autism can sometimes develop a very strong interest in things that a neurotypical person might find strange. This kid for some reason just loved the mechanism of a fan. And had all sorts of magazines and pictures and models of fans. As motivation for his sessions. We'd let him turn the fan in the room on and off. It sounds weird, but it was actually very sweet. He was just genuinely astounded by how fans work. Well, at least he has a fan club. I used to volunteer for a wildlife rescue and did a pickup at a very elderly woman's house where she had found a baby bird. When I got there she carefully uncovered it from the towel she'd placed it in and it was just a chestnut. This one actually makes me really happy. How do you even respond to that? Oh yes. I'll take very good care of this, mom. For 20 years I've spent my summers designing home theater systems. After the installers finish I go by the house a few days later to check on things. 75% of the time I hit play on the DVD player. Porn starts playing. And yet I forget to check before hitting play every damn time. Not sure who's dumber, me or the clients. Oh, and the recent one went by the client's house to do the usual check-in. He showed me his wall of heroes in the foyer. It consisted of framed autographed pictures of Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, and Henry Lee Lucas. And a few others I'm forgetting. Plus some framed letters from them. Wall of heroes indeed. I used to install residential replacement windows. My boss and I have to walk in and out of almost every room that has a window. We got into this ranch style home. I noticed a small bed and pillow on the floor in a closet. Kind of looked like a dog's bed. Then throughout the day I noticed they don't have a dog. They don't have a TV, they don't have any electronics or kids toys either. But what they do have is an adopted Middle Eastern girl. That was where she slept. Mind you, they have a little girl and little boy with their own rooms. She slept in a fucking closet. I mentioned it to my boss. Said he'd run into this kind of thing before. Called them Bible beaters. He brushed it off. I didn't. I called the police anonymously. I don't know what happened. I didn't work for that guy much longer. A couple of years ago I worked for a cleaning company. One of my first days on the job I was cleaning a woman's house and entered a room on the second floor that, I kid you not, was full of only clocks and mirrors. I've never been so aware of my own mortality. My neighbor once asked me to feed his cat for him while he was out of town. Nice guy in his mid-30s who lived alone and ran his own landscaping company. He would sometimes cut our grass for us when he was out cutting his on his huge landscaping mower. So I mean, yeah, of course I'll feed your cat for a few days. Bible verses were written in red marker on every inch of every mirror in his house. And there were an odd amount of mirrors. Like multiple full-length mirrors in just his living room, absolutely covered in tiny red Bible verses. I never really looked at him the same after that. Edit. For those who keep messaging me about it being normal to write verses in places where you will see them to study them or just to be inspired by them, I'll write what I replied to someone lower down with. I can totally get on board with positive messages written on mirrors as a daily reminder. This guy had multiple floor-length mirrors in every room covered in writing that was the size you would use on a regular lined sheet of paper. All of it in red marker. I don't even know how he did it without smudging it all. Seems like it would be very inconvenient. Even his bathroom mirror was covered. It was a little beyond your average verse written for inspiration in a place you will see often. I did home health care for a woman out of hospice. She had cancer several times. She was comatose. She hardly even went to the bathroom anymore in a diaper. I would definitely ask to be snowballed with morphine before I got that sick. I was supposed to give her water and mushroom soup. It was really hard not to choke her with it. There was nothing to do but sit and read to her. People like how I read out loud after a couple weeks practice. The husband also had me cook him dinner. They had at least 50 clocks in the main room of the house. It was really creepy, but I eventually came to peace with it. My sister does deliveries for a small pharmacy. Before one of her first deliveries, her boss told her that if she couldn't handle the smell she didn't have to go inside. Well, this woman was bedridden and had been shitting in a trash can next to her bed. There was also a dead cat decomposing in the living room. Should have called social services. You don't want to be there when shit hits the can. I was working for a condo building, letting air conditioning guys look at units within condos. I was just a key holder. One of the last units of the day was a condo. I knocked on the door. No answer. Opened the door to an immediate waft of foul smell. Just some rotten eggs maybe. Enter the unit and see some moldy bread on the counter. Sweaty looking cake on the stove. It's pretty fucking rank in here, I say to the guys. I look in the bedroom and see an older black woman with kind of a bad blonde eye job hunched over in the bed in a bit of a yoga pose. I'm immediately embarrassed. Sorry mom, I didn't know you were home. I said. No movement. I take a step closer. Mom. She's fucking dead, dude. One of the air-conditioned guys says as he hurries out of the unit. His only evidence is the smell and my tone of voice when I said mom. I step a little closer and the woman's skin is bruised and has moldy patches on it. This is not a yoga post. This is a settling into the bed pose. Some facts I later learned from the police. She's a young Caucasian blonde woman, not an older black woman. Last diary entry 10 days prior. Pill bottles and last will and testament on the bedside table. My wife is a physical therapist who does home health visits. She has seen some shit. Several hoarders. People who have bizarrely huge collections of curios like snow globes, crosses, and one lady who had a disturbingly huge collection of Princess Diana memorabilia. Several old guys who tried to subtly proposition her for sexual favors. Then there was the one old guy who was recovering from a knee replacement and flat out said something like, I haven't had a blowjob in like 20 years. Is that something you do? Crazy cat ladies. They are real and sometimes their houses are infested with fleas. There was a lady who had experienced a stroke and had lost a good chunk of her impulse control as well as mobility on one side of her body. Every time my wife saw her, there were 2 dildos on her kitchen counter in plain view of the living room where my wife worked with the patient. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Reddit After Dark. Have a good night.